Hey, Pastor Steve Waldron here, New Life Pentecostal Church, Albany, Georgia. We're going to make sure I've got my mic on. I do. We're looking, and have been looking for a little while, at the historical perfectibilist, which is the order of the Illuminati. There is so much weird conspiracy theory out there about the Illuminati. And to the point, when I was growing up, I considered myself rather well informed in all this. I didn't even know it existed, but it did. You get a hold of a Encyclopedia Britannica, you're going to read about the order of the Illuminati. So deciphering the fact from the fiction is really what we want to do. So we're going to look at some early events of the order of the Illuminati. Of course, there was a man named Adam Weishaupt. No, he was not George Washington. He wasn't the Marquis de Lafayette or any other conspiracy theory out there. So let's start with a little quote by Weishaupt. And this is on pages 15 forward. And it's just a great chronology. But let's open with this deal with Adam Weishaupt. He says, do you realize sufficiently what it means to rule? This is Weishaupt. To rule in a secret society, not only over the lesser or more important of the populace, but over the best of men, over men of all ranks, nations, and religions, to rule without external force, to unite them indissolubly, to breathe one spirit and soul into them, men distributed all over parts of the world. And finally, do you know what secret societies are? What a place they occupy in the great kingdom of the world's events? Do you think they're unimportant transitory appearances? Now, you have to realize, as a Christian, we're wrestling not with flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, rulers of the darkness, in spiritual wickedness in high places. So even if there is some mysterious cabal out there, they're still subject to Almighty God, and the prayers of the saints, and the God who answers the prayers of the saints is still far the greatest ruling power in the world. So that's one thing. It concerns me when so many people get caught up in conspiracy theories, because I'm just like, get on your knees. I mean, even if those things exist, you're not going to fight. What are you going to do? Well, we'll form a militia. Yeah, great. I mean, come on, pray. We're an army that goes on our knees, and we have to believe that God does these things. Okay, so in 1748, February 6, Johann Adam Weishaupt was born. He died in 1830 of Westphalian parents in Ingolstadt, Bavaria. Now I'm going to skip some of this, okay, because this would be too much to read. Fittingly, the Weishaupt family name first appeared in nearby Baden, was anciently associated with tribal conflicts around the area. And let me show you this. This is just a little map. Terry Melanson is one of the finest historians that I have ever run across. And I'm not even sure he's got a degree. He's from Canada in history. But, as long as you're doing the work, you don't have to have a degree. There may be doctors that have a degree that don't do a good job, and there may be other people who learn a lot that know how to do it. But you give me the person that knows what they're doing. All right, 1753, Weishaupt father, Johann George Weishaupt, born 1717, dies. He was like 36, so he's adopted, Adam is, by his liberal godfather, Johann Adam Baron von Ickstadt, professor and rector of the University of Ingolstadt, and a member of the Privy Council. So he grew up privileged, Adam Weishaupt did, and this is how he's going to get his position at canon law at Ingolstadt. While growing up, Weishaupt was educated by the Jesuits. Now, that's why a lot of people think the Illuminati was a Jesuit deal. Well, to my knowledge, it's not. Actually, he hated the Jesuits, and his goal was to exterminate the Jesuits. But he did want to use a lot of what the Jesuits did. Okay, so Eckstadt's library comprised over 4,200 volumes. Weishaupt blossomed into an adept bibliophile. Remember, he became an economist, a philosopher, all this. He was naturally attracted to the books of a forbidden nature, those volumes from Eckstadt's collection, which the latter kept after the censor of the university library had them rejected as inappropriate, blasphemous, or dangerous. In 1763, at age 15, Weishaupt was sufficiently advanced enough to study philosophy and history at the University of Ingolstadt. 1768, at the age of 20, graduating from the University of Ingolstadt. My brother was 20 when he graduated as well from college. Weishaupt is conferred a doctorate of law on January 10th. His dissertation was on the topic of jus civile privatum. He serves for 4 years as a tutor and a catechist. 1772, Weishaupt is appointed as professor of civil law at the University of Ingolstadt. 1773, July 11th, against the wishes of Eichstätt, Weishaupt marries Afra Sossenhofer from Eichstätt. On July 21st of that same year, Pope Clement XIV dissolves the Jesuit order, and Weishaupt becomes the first layman to occupy the chair of canon law. I'll just show you some of the people that are associated with him and Weishaupt himself. Weishaupt, if we were pronouncing it, officially, but we're not. Adam Weishaupt. So I just think it's so important to keep things in historical perspective. The church is the pillar and ground of the truth. So whenever lies get into the church, it's not a good thing. Okay, so but Eichstätt made a great mistake in allowing this to occur, for immediately the Jesuits began to conspire. By now, Weishaupt's liberal views had already become apparent to faculty and students alike. Weishaupt therefore became their number one enemy. So they got in this big fight at the college. At one point, it deteriorated to such an extent that Weishaupt even denied his salary. In 1775, Weishaupt is promoted to Dean of the Faculty of Law, replacing Eichstätt's nephew. So Eichstätt helped him move up the ladder. May 1st, 1776, this is the reason May Day is such a big deal in communist countries, because communism is the ideological heir of the Illuminati. So May 1st, and that's the reason even we say May Day, May Day. I've been told by historians that comes from the order of the Illuminati, that it's, a terrible thing. Okay. So he had an original membership of 5. May 1st, Weishaupt founds the Order of the Illuminati, original membership of 5. Weishaupt, Spartacus, and see, they always use pseudonyms. They had pseudonymous numbers, calendar systems, Persian, all this kind of stuff. Franz Anton van Massenhausen, Ajax, Max Edler von Mertz was Tiberius. His pupils at Ingolstadt before the order existed, a law student, Bauhoff, or Babeuf, which Babeuf, another Babeuf, went on to, not spelled exactly like that, in the French Revolution, and was a communist, one of the first to use the term communist, if I'm not mistaken. Agathon, of whom little else is known, and Andreas Suter, Erasmus Rotterdamus. These disciples, soon vying with their master in impiety, he judged them worthy of being admitted to his mysteries and conferred on them the highest degrees that he had yet invented, and he called them Areopagites, and installed himself as their chief, and called this monstrous association the Order of the Illuminati. It was on the 1st of May, 1776, that this inauguration was celebrated. Now that's, I just want to see something. That's number 19. I wonder if it's at the end of this chapter. Let's see what book they're quoting from there. This is just fantastic. Oh, it's Augustin Bedriel's, which I think I've done a review on that. I've read that a couple times. So this is what the Illuminati symbol was a circle and a dot. Yes, it does creep me out when I see Target and the Democratic Party, and like every Fortune 500 company in the world has some thing of the circle and the dot in it. I'm still like, And it really creeped me out when I was in India and the circle and the dot was some Hindu symbol over there. I was like, well, that's interesting. Okay, so the reason they called it the perfectibilist at first, because he was looking for the perfection of man, the perfectibility of man. Okay, 1777, March, in Munich, Weishaupt is initiated into Freemasonry at the strict observant lodge Zerbehuttungsmeck under the alias Centuriason. In the context of Weishaupt's initiation into this lodge, and I butchered those names, by the way, into this lodge, Reinhard Koselleck wrote, okay, and so he talks about being initiated into Masonry. And see, that plays a huge role. The Illuminati just really floundered around until a guy named Baron von Nigg got involved and used his Masonic connections, especially a big convention at Wilhelmsbad, and got hundreds of people in, and then it got big, and it was huge in 1785, 1787. And some people say it lasted even beyond that. Okay, so this, a note on the same page quotes Weishaupt as saying of his strict observant lodge, I believe that I was under the strictest observation of many persons not known to me. Towards this end, I sought to fulfill my duties most accurately, because nothing seemed as certain to me as that none of my actions were unnoticed. And that's one of the big deals of the Illuminati, is you like had to write a diary, and they had to watch you, because you had to be inscrutable. You had to make it. Okay. The unknown superior secret chiefs of the strict observance Illuminati is Johann Joachim Christoph Bode, explains J.J.C. Bode. See, now that is documented in history. He took over the Illuminati after Weishaupt went into exile. So by the middle of 1779, Weishaupt's insinuators gained complete control of the Munich Lodge, and it was regarded as part of the Order of the Illuminati. In 1780, February 8th, Weishaupt's wife dies. In July of 1780, Baron von Nigg is initiated in the order. And he was well connected to the court of Hesse-Kassel. Now, why that's interesting is the Hesse-Kassel, my ear is itchy, is how the Rothschilds made their money. Was it I've read biographies of Rothschilds. They've fascinated me for years. And that's how they got their money, was loaning money at some point to Hesse-Kassel, who was considered the richest guy in the world. So there is some connection between the Rothschilds and the Illuminati, but they were Jewish, and so they had to belong to a Jewish lodge. At that time, there was a lot of anti-Semitism. I mean, they had to live on Juden Street and all this. It was a bad deal. Speculation was rampant in Masonic circles throughout Europe regarding the authenticity of the Illuminati, still mythical and ethereal to the initiated. And then you've got King Frederick, who was in all kinds of stuff. Okay, so 1781, ex-Jesuit Ignatius Franc, in a sermon, is the first to publicly attack the Order of the Illuminati. He accuses the Masonic traitors, the brother of Judas, of preparing the way for the Antichrist. So in 1781, you've got a minister already preaching against the Illuminati. And they weren't alone. In 1798, here in America, you had Timothy Dwight, who was the president, was it of Yale or Harvard? One of the two. And others like Samuel Morse and many popular people were preaching against the Illuminati. I've read this. Vernon Stauffer's got an amazing book on the Bavarian Illuminati and the Northeast United States. It's an incredible book. Okay, the Rosicrucians were the enemies of the Illuminati, and they had, in the meantime, built themselves into formidable power. And so it circles. If you ever want to read about the concentric secret societies and stuff, C.S. Lewis's book, That Hideous Strength, is maybe the best I've ever read on that. Okay, 1782, July 16th, the Congress of Wilhelmsbad convened at the summer retreat of William I, the ruler of the Principality of Hanau, who subsequently became William IX, Landgrave of Hesse-Kassel in 1785. This is probably the most significant event of this era as far as any official coalition between secret society factions were concerned. So we'll let you see all these pictures. It's got Adam Weishaupt's wife's death mask, which he's actually got pictures of Weishaupt's death mask in here. It's kind of weird, like making death mask. I'm not totally sure what all that was about, but it had something to do with something. I did want to show you this picture of Adam Weishaupt on the back. It's this one right up here. It's right by Baron von Nigg. I mean, he kind of looks like weed. I mean, he talked about abortifacients and poisons, and, you know, if you read his original writings, it's kind of creepy stuff. And he really did want to take over the world. He just really did. Okay, so we're going to read just a little bit more here. Ferdinand, Duke of Brunswick, Grand Master of the Order of Strict Observance. These were all the people that were there. Then it's got something about Nesta Helen Webster. Nesta Webster. A lot of people accuse her of being anti-Semitic. I know that. I have no idea. I haven't done that study. If she is. Templarism. We're skipping some pages here. August 7th to 1782, the war with the Golden and Rosy Cross has already begun. Illuminatus Baron von Derfeth Minos, while the Wilhelmsfeld Convention is still in progress, sent out his provincial report for the previous month. Concerning Wetzlar, he says the superiors have decided to spend a Minerval assembly. Minerval is one of the degrees of the Illuminati, because of a public attack upon the Illuminati by Johann Christian von Waldenfels. Like Waldron. Okay. 1783. In April, Karl Landgrave of Hesse-Kassel was visited by the Prince of Prussia, Frederick William. The former had already been insinuated into the Illuminati in February, while the latter, as was noted above, had been initiated in the Golden Rosy Cross in 1781. Frederick William, not knowing that Karl was a member, inquired of the Landgrave whether they had heard of the branch of Freemasonry called the Minervals. Under the pretext of universal liberty, the prince said they had been preaching all manner of terrible sermons to the brothers and wished to eliminate despotism and enslave the Freemasons. So just amazing stuff here. Let me just read this. Around the same time, Prince Frederick William spake with Karl of Hesse-Kassel. The Rosicrucian superiors sent out a circular. And see, even the term circular comes from the Illuminati, according to the Librarian of Congress in his book, Fire in the Minds of Men, because of the circle and the dot. And so, term circular. Okay. It fell in the hands of the Illuminati. Entitled The Illuminati Unmasked, the official communique was a stern warning to be on guard against the Illuminati, the deists and the Socinians, who illegally congregate and read from the books of Voltaire and Helvetius, and who use Masonry to undermine the basis of religious faith and try to convince people of the validity of Pierre Bayle, that is, the longing for a secular constitution, universal in scope and encompassing the entirety of Europe. Through their deadly traps, the Illuminati have imprisoned the souls of clerics. It's for this reason the circular states that the Golden Rosy Cross must redouble its effort to recruit everywhere. Anyhow, so now in October, Joseph von Utschneider, along with George Grunberger and Johann Sulpicius Marcus de Cossandi, fellow professors at the Marian Academy and members of the order, presented the Duchess Dowager Maria Anna, sister-in-law of the Elector Karl Theodore, with a document accusing the Illuminati of nefarious plotting. So there were some of the ones, Cossander, Utschneider, who brought the Illuminati down, because they defected. They were Illuminati, and they defected. And that's where we get a lot of what they believed is from these guys. But also, I mean, Weishaupt wrote about it. Okay. History of the Illuminati, 1906, Berlin. The document charged the order with a variety of offenses. This is Cossandi, Utschneider. Holding such vicious moral and religious sentiments as that life should be controlled by passion rather than reason, that suicide is justifiable, that one may poison one's enemies, and that religion should be regarded as nonsense and patriotism as puerility. Finally, and much more seriously, from a particular point of view of the Duchess, the Bavarian Illuminati were accused of being in the service of the government of Austria, whose efforts at the time to extend its hegemony over Bavaria had created considerable tension in the latter country. Okay, November 11th, in Berlin, this is 1783, the Autreus Globes Lodge overtly declares war upon the Illuminati, describing the latter as a Masonic sect that undermines the Christian religion and turns Freemasonry into a political system. But notice, I mean, by this time, the states, the colonies have gotten freedom from the UK, and so there's no Illuminati influence in the United States, okay, at that time. So we're going to stop beginning with 1784 and, Lord willing, pick up later. So this is just a history from the birth of Adam Weishaupt briefly the history of the Illuminati through 1783. Fascinating to me. I guess I read it as recreation. So God bless. I'll talk with you later in Jesus' name.